Thank you for being here. Welcome. We are talking today about emerging trends in spirituality and how things are changing in churches and spiritual centers and even in the holistic world, how things are changing and what we might consider in how we strengthen our unity spiritual centers. And so some of the emerging trends that we're seeing are holistic spiritual practices, which means centers are adding holistic services, more interfaith exploration. People are really interested in the comparison of one religion to another, more social justice and interaction, more cause-related work. People are interested in what causes our churches are involved in and how we're making the world a better place. And of course, digital engagement has changed. Online engagement has changed. We're seeing a lot of new ways of using these things that we carry around in our pocket to stay in touch with our people. So some of the key shifts are based on things like inclusivity, community involvement, our ability to be flexible, to meet the needs of people wherever they are. We have 5 generations in the workplace right now, which is unprecedented and changes everything. We have 5 generations of people that we're serving right now. And so youth leadership is a really important piece of this. How we involve young people going forward really makes a difference. And a lot of our communities have gotten very gray. So really thinking about the younger end, if somebody walks into your building right now, do they feel like there's something that they can participate in, something that would engage them? Does the crowd that they're looking at have enough variation to meet their needs? Or do they feel like they've walked into a 1 generation household and they really don't have a place to be? So obviously, we know that we have to attract younger generations. We have to find a way to attract younger generations. Some of the things that the younger generations call for from us are different than what has been prominent in the past. So authenticity and transparency, younger generations don't trust the systems of life. Just because you're a spiritual center doesn't mean that you're honest. It doesn't mean that what you're saying is true. It doesn't mean that you know what you're talking about. It doesn't mean that you're really going to do the things that you say you're going to do. So being able to find our way into conversation with these young people that let them know that we really are authentic in our care for them, in our desire to widen the group of people that we serve, in our finances, that our what happens with our money, how we use our money is obvious to them. Those things really matter more than they ever have. One of the places that I'm really fascinated with is the idea of mentorship programs, because it meets 2 needs. Because older people have a feeling that they have outlived their usefulness in life, and younger people are looking for wisdom. So when we're able to create mentorship and really call it that, and choose people in our community that are wise to be available to provide support to younger people, it serves both needs. It helps both groups. Not everyone is a good mentor, but some are really good mentors and have a lot to offer. And you know who those are because you talk to them, you work with them. They're often involved or have been involved in your leadership. Service-oriented activities. Who are you working with, and are there real activities going on? One of the hard things as our communities age is that we mostly give money to support other causes. We don't necessarily take our people out to build a Habitat for Humanity house or to walk in a walkathon. We don't do a lot of those same things that we did when we were younger, and we don't when our groups were younger, and we don't pass those things down because we don't have the younger end involved. But if we can sponsor and engage even a couple of people in programs that are actually active, we have ways to attract, ways to engage and attract those younger people who are even on site and see us out working. So it's just something to, there's a difference between being engaged in causes or being active. And I want to point that out because I want you to ask yourself, what do you really do besides raise money for? How do you really help? And one of the things that is happening in Colorado Springs right now is they have a group called Scrappy Quilters, and they make quilts. And there are about 5 or 6 women that are part of this quilting group, but they take the quilts to a youth hostel and they give them there. They donate them into that space and they get to know the younger people that are there as a result. And the younger people have a warm feeling about the community because something has come from here to people who are younger in age. And when we talk about the things we're involved in, we're able to talk about the engagement with a younger group of people. That's important stuff. So it's just something to think about. And then lifestyle considerations too. How open are we to a variety of lifestyles? And what do we do to indicate that we're open? How do we show that? Do we, is posted in our building, for example, even a resource list for the LGBTQ community can help people to understand that we're open to that lifestyle, that we support it because there's stuff that supports that lifestyle put up on our bulletin boards and available. What kinds of lifestyles do we support and how do we support them? What kind of diversity can they see, not only reflected in the people in our building, but in the things that we put up on our walls and the way that we speak from our pulpits? And what kind of activities are available in church? So interactive worship, for example, most of us right now have a hybrid service going on. We have people online and we have people in the room, but that is different than an interactive presence. So some churches have built an app for their church that allows people to, for example, ask questions. Even on Zoom, you have the ability to have people put questions in the chat. So maybe one of the ways that you would be interactive is to have questions about or comments made in your chat that you as the minister, after you speak, can come back and answer. Just so there's some engagement with the people who are on the screen. Because the people in the room you get to hug, you get to interact with. But those people that are on screen are not always interactive. They're more like an audience than they are participants. So looking for ways that you can interact with people who are coming in digitally can be really helpful and really help you to attract younger people. Younger people are much more likely to check out your digital service than they are to walk in first time. They want to see what it is you're doing. They want to hear the music. They want to see if you resonate with them. They want to see if they feel comfortable. So how you interact with that space and your ability to talk to that space, to that community, to bring them in and remind them that they're part of what happens in the building itself really matters. And intergenerational ministry, which is to partner your young end with your older end. I referred to it as mentorship, but it's not always that. Sometimes it's a project. Sometimes it's we're asking everyone over 60 and everyone younger than 20 to come together and make ornaments for the Christmas tree. We'd like to create some generational interaction. And on both ends, you're asking both ends to help the other, aren't you? You're asking the people who are younger to bring their creativity, and you're asking who are older to bring their wisdom. And to have, you can set tabletop questions. While you're making ornaments, here are some cue cards. Pick up a card and ask each other a question and get to know each other. You can engage those people with one another and get them interactive. And that helps younger generations to be woven into the more established parts of your community in a really sweet way. We are a separated world right now. A lot of people don't have grandparents available to them. Their grandparents live someplace else. So being able to bring people of different ages together can be really valuable. A pop-up event is a really interesting new thing. So a pop-up event is like, maybe you've heard of pop-up stores. In the middle of a nightclub, they do a pop-up store. Somebody has a store with clothes and jewelry in it, and it comes in on rolling racks, and it's a store that's there for one. And if you happen to be in there that day, hey, there's a pop-up. You can go and shop at that thing. This is happening all over the world right now, these little pop-up activities. There's a pop-up reader. There's a pop-up author reading their book. There's a pop-up yoga class. We just decided to do one today. So looking for pop-up opportunities. Could you do a pop-up class? Hey, we don't have this on the schedule, but this afternoon I'm doing this class, or there's a pop-up class at the local coffee shop. I'm going to be down there. Come and join me. Maybe other people who are at the coffee shop will be engaged to come and sit around the table. We've reserved a table for 10 people, and maybe people there will be interested if we start a topic of conversation and let people know that's happening and they're invited. So it's just one more option or possibility for building a way, for attracting people in a new way. One thing is for sure, people are tired of Zoom alone. They want to get back together with people, and our younger generations are really hungry for interaction. They're really tied to this, and they do a lot of doom scrolling. They just get in it and they do it forever. And they're learning that that is not satisfying. And they're starting to realize that they need to be together with people. So what are you offering? What can happen? Who do you know who can bring a pop-up event or a pop-up activity or a pop-up store to your church? Something that just they can promote to their friends and bring their friends in. Mission projects, of course, like I said, need to be active. Cleanup drives, eco projects, house buildings, deliveries, things that get people in partnerships interacting for short periods of time are really, really helpful for everybody, no matter what age they are, because it helps us to see that we can give into the world and that our giving into the world makes a difference. And that we've talked about before really helps to keep us from being apathetic. So one of the things that I want to suggest to you as Unity leaders is that you look at your current programs, that you actually take time. So right now we're at the end of the year. You're in the middle of the holidays. You don't have time to evaluate anything, but you will in January when things change a little bit. You'll get your tax letters out and you'll have a little bit of breathing room before you get to your annual meetings or you get to Easter, which is not until April this year. So we've got some time. What's working and what isn't working? What is actually attracting new people? What is getting your name out in the public? And what have you been doing forever that really isn't doing anything? How much energy does it take? Is it valuable for you to keep doing that? Can you facilitate dialogue within your community and say, wow, it's the beginning of a new year. What is our objective for bringing in new people this year? How would we like to evolve? Can you facilitate conversation that sets a few objectives that your community can monitor for your own growth and your own expansion? Can you expand your digital outreach? What might that look like? Do you have the energy or effort or interest to put an app in place? Would that be something that serves you? Would you like to work in partnership, maybe with a meditation app or something like that? Are there programs online that you could promote that you could contribute to. So most of us are really good at doing meditations because we do them every week. Can you get a meditation from your Unity Center online in some of these meditation programs that are available so that people can learn about what you're doing? And do you do any collaboration locally? Do you interact with other churches that are similar, like-minded, or do you interact with other places that are in service? So right now, there is a need for us in communities that serve immigrants, for everything from driving people to the doctor, to taking people to the grocery store, to making sure that they have what they need in their house, to helping them navigate a language that they don't speak so that they can find what they need. Being out of the country as I am right now has really been enlightening when it comes to navigating a country where I don't speak the language. I'm incredibly aware how difficult it might be for immigrants in our country who have no understanding of, like, Mark's computer went out today, and trying to figure out where we can get a computer repaired in a country that speaks Italian, then we don't. You know, some of the very basic things in life, or going to the grocery store and trying to look at things by the picture to figure out what they are, versus having you know, sit down with someone and help them make a shopping list and then showing them where they can find certain things in the store, because the stores are not the same. Our stores are very overwhelming in comparison to a lot of stores out of the country that are very, very small little places. When you walk into our store, to find something is massive. So there are a lot of things that we can do to help in the case of people who are in our country and need a hand. Also things that can be done to help communities, like I said earlier, like the LGBTQ community, people who are offering homes to people who are helpless or homeless, and work that can be done with drug addiction. There just is a lot of need. There are a lot of ways for us to get our name out into the community and find people who need spiritual guidance and give them something that is love-based instead of fear-based, and something that allows them to be who they are and doesn't require them to change and still offers help. We have a lot of ability there, and we serve a lot of the communities that are really in need. So we talked a little bit about the apps and the hybrid services. There's a church in Nashville that's doing something. I just went out and said, what are interesting things churches are doing? And in Nashville, there's a church that's doing a thing called The Table. And they just have a theme, a conversation theme once a week, and it's a potluck. So they might talk about meditation, or they might talk about divination, or they might talk about regeneration, or they might talk about trauma, or they might bring in an expert to lead a conversation on a topic, but they get together once a week for a conversation. And that's different than pulling your community together once a week just to hear you talk. You can actually assign this to somebody else. You as the minister don't have to do this. But when we weave our people into conversation, when we actually get them talking to one another, we build a sense of community and a sense of belonging. So I thought that was a really interesting idea. And then there's another church doing something called Soul Cycle, where they go to the gym together and they do a little prayer work before they go in, and then they really just exercise together. It's fitness and spirituality, and it's done with the idea that they're caring for the temple, that this physical temple is really important to the spiritual messages that they receive. And so they are going together to get healthy. It doesn't have to be cycling. It could be a fitness walk or a hike that you do once a week, or a walk around the block, or chair yoga, or anything like that, that brings people in. What makes it sacred is the intention you give it, and the attention you give it. That the more clear, the more strong our body is, the more we're able to do the good work. So here's another thing that we're doing that you can participate in. And for you as ministers, this again is something someone else can facilitate. And we need that, because what happens when it's just us a lot of times is that the primary focus for us is Sunday morning. Sunday morning, holidays, who's healthy, who's not, who do you have to see in the hospital, what else has to happen? And so all of that ends up making it feel like our spiritual centers are a Sunday thing versus a 7-day-a-week thing or a 3-day-a-week thing or whatever that is. But having activities that happen through the week is really valuable in bringing in new people, in bringing in people for different reasons, people who maybe are not coming on Sunday. And we think it's all about the Sunday morning service. But what if it's not? What if your Unity Spiritual Center is happening every day of the week and everything that happens in there is just as important as what happens on Sunday, because we're in service to people? And whether they come on Sunday for an official service, or they come for a class, or they come for a conversation, or they come to make a quilt, or they come for any other reason, they're coming together and getting community and having a sense of belonging and having a sense that they're in like-mindedness. Can we expand our mind beyond Sunday morning? What if we didn't have a Sunday morning service? Could we still be a spiritual center? Do we have stuff going on? Because it's the anchor point that we're used to. It's our job. Sunday morning is our job. But we're paying for a building all the other days. We're engaged with people online all the other days. Even the idea of the table, the themed dinner, that discussion that's open that I said could be done by somebody else, that could happen online. You could say, we're all going to eat dinner together at our own tables, and we're going to jump online and have a conversation. And it's going to happen every Tuesday night from 5:30 to 7. And you can stay as long as you want. If you can't make it, jump on out. It's okay. But come in and we'll have a conversation. And somebody can facilitate that. Start with a couple of questions and then open the door for other people. Our people don't get heard on Sunday morning, but they have so much to say. And connecting, right? To feel connected to something is really important in what we do. So these are just some of the things that are available to you that I wanted you to think about as we're ending the year and going in. You have your holidays to do. You know what is ahead of you for the next few weeks, but you're starting a new year. And who can you involve? How can you involve other people? How can you foster leadership? How can you engage younger people? How can you deepen the conversation that your community is having? How can you deepen the experience that your community is having? Because they're kind of in the same experience when we do the same thing all the time. How can you deepen that experience? I use this particular picture because when I went to South Korea several years ago, I went into a Buddhist temple and I had one of the most remarkable experiences of my life in that temple. I walked across the threshold, and I may have told you guys this story before, and was immediately in tears. It was a really life-changing experience for me. But one of the things that you did was you walked up to the altar and you lit incense to say a prayer for someone. So it's a very visceral thing to do, because first of all, there's flame and there's something you're holding, and then there's smoke, and you can step back and see that smoke, and you can watch the prayer rise. So at that same place, at the hotel I'm staying in, they had a little kind of looked like a light on a pole, but it wasn't, like you see the old-fashioned lights that have the little metal box around them. It looked like that, but it wasn't a light. You open it up and inside was incense and a little holder with sand in it, and a lighter. So when people came to work, they would stop at that place before they went into work, and they would light incense and put it in that container. And there was a hole in the top, so smoke would come out of the top of that container. And that for them was how they revered the ancestors. They would stop and thank their ancestors for their life and what they did, and they would start that prayer, and then they would go and do their work. And I thought several times about, what if you just had something like that on a table where people could come in and they could light incense and offer an intention before they come in for an act or a service or whatever you have going on? What if there was a station outside your door that invited people, because a lot of us have fire alarms and can't burn incense inside of our buildings, but you can burn it outside. And you can do it far enough away from the front door that not everybody has to do it. Or a bowl of water with rose petals. And a bowl of water with rose petals and a mirror sitting outside the door where you have a chance to do a blessing for yourself. You don't have to, but you can stop and offer a blessing for yourself, that let me take my holiest self into this place. There are things that we can do that have a sense to them, that have a fragrance, a touch, a sight, that involve people in something experiential. How can you deepen experience that people are having of your service, of your center, of the place that they're coming in? These are questions to take into your new year. How can you empower new leadership to think in these lines and do some of these things for you so that you're not the only person? Can you have an experienced team, a group of people who are looking for ways to create something experiential? I have had someone at the door with a small chime who rang a chime every time somebody walked through the door into the sanctuary, because I was teaching about the threshold and the importance of stepping into sacred space. And when you step in and you hear the chime, that's the first impact. But then there's an impact after that. Every time somebody else comes in and you're sitting in your chair, you go, oh, someone has entered the sacred space. Oh, someone just came in. Oh, there's that sound that you hear that reminds you that you're not the only person in sacred space, that there are more people. And those are jobs that anyone can do. Anyone can ring that chime. You set the intention, you send it out in your e-blast. Before you come this week, know that this is happening. Not only would I like you to consciously cross the threshold into our sacred space, but I would like you to consciously welcome in every person who joins you. So what experiential can you do to bring people deeper into the connection, into the oneness, into the belonging of your community? These are questions that I want to leave you with going into your new year. There are things that I want you to, how to float around in your mind. And maybe while you're on vacation, you'll have a ding, something in that little bit of time that you have between New Year's and Christmas. Something might strike you, or in the first month, something will come up. But we have to make change. We have to grow in the experiential aspects of what we do. We have to go from just giving money to causes to actively engaging our people with causes. We have to go from putting people of different ages in the same room to getting people of different ages to interact. And we have to go from being authentically unity to being deeply authentic selves in order to have the people that we are most suited to serve find us and want to stay. And these are changes that are necessary for us to grow our new communities, for us to grow and expand in new times, for us to make ourselves visible in a time of change, when there are people who really need us, who are really looking for what we offer. And we have to use our technology more. We have to look for ways to be interactive. Text messages to your community. Once a week, send a text message. You can do it if you have Breeze, it's easy. You can do it right from Breeze, right out to your community. Think about who in your community would use an app. Do you have enough young people? What could you put on your app? What would be available? Are there other Unity apps available? For example, the Unity app that allows people to go into the prayer room in Silent Unity, contribute to the prayers. There was a lot of focus on that for a while, and then it's kind of fallen away. But Unity created that, and we can promote it. We can bring people into that place of knowing not only can you contribute here, but if you feel like you can't come out and help us build a house for Habitat for Humanity, what you can do is go into the international prayer room at Silent Unity, and you can pray. We pray for 4 million people a year. Your prayer voice, your presence there has power. You may not physically be able to do everything we can do, but you still have value. And your prayer has power in the world beyond our community. The more purpose and more intention that we put into what we do, the more likely people are in today's world to be called to us and to stay involved with. Because people are looking for real experience. They're looking for more than talking heads, and we might be the best talking heads in the world, but they're looking for something more than that because they can get that on YouTube every day of the week. So as you imagine yourself into 2025, I invite you to imagine yourself into what is next, because spirituality evolves as people do. Spirituality evolves as people evolve, and our people are evolving. So the natural evolution is there. We need to create a unity that embraces the future while we still honor the timeless truths that are unity. It's ours to do. It's what we signed up for as ministers and as servants. It's ours to think in a new way. So I encourage you to do that as you go into 2025 and to take that call to action deep to your heart, to really understand the importance of the gifts that you bring when you think in a new and innovative way, when you imagine yourself into a new place. This year has been remarkable for me, as it always is with you. I have really loved being here and working with you, and I'm so grateful for the sweetness of your hearts and the space that you make in your lives to be part of the business mastermind. And I look forward to seeing what we'll do in the next year. And I'm going to stop this recording and thank all of you who are watching the recording, and then have a few more words with those of you that are in the room. But if you're watching this recording, there is a sweetness that happens in this room that's palpable and difficult to explain until you experience it. So I hope you will consider joining us live in the future.